Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's video for the week. And the topic for this week is actually about the Slow Redraw tool and how we can use that to simulate sewing and really understand how our embroidery design is going to stitch out. And there's even a stop button for a very easy way to insert a color stop inside of an embroidery design. And so if you're ready to get started, let's go ahead and pop onto the Floriani Workspace. And the first thing I'll do is look to the browser tab on the right where it says library. And I'm going to hover. Notice it says free monthly designs, and you can choose any of the months of the year. These are all of the designs that come with your Floriani software. If I select a month, then I go over to the designs tab to see the contents or the designs from that month. And if you click and drag, you can bring one of the designs onto your workspace. And you can repeat that process if you want to merge multiple designs to create a larger workspace. You would simply click and drag again to bring in another one, and you could make an entire layout. You could, for example, display your embroidery hoop. And if the hoop doesn't seem to be big enough for, the two embroidery designs that you've brought onto your screen or more, then you could choose a different hoop. And there's a tool right here where you get to tell the program, first of all, which format that you use. And once you tell the software the format, then it will show you a list of hoops that are available for your machine. And when you select a larger hoop, it'll give you more space to, do your layout. So now that I've got my workspace with two embroidery designs in it, when I look to the top, I can see a colorful bar. And this is the Slow Redraw tool. If it's not immediately there, in other words, if you don't see it, you can have it closed. There's a button right here. So if I click on that, it will hide it. It looks like a speedometer at the top. And when you click on it, it will turn that back on. If clicking on that button is not making the Slow Redraw tool reappear, then you can also use the toolbars tool at the top of your workspace. When you click on that, there's an option to reset your workspace. That will put everything back to kind of like the factory defaults, and it always brings back the Slow Redraw tool. That said, I like to save my own workspaces and put my toolbars in special spots that make me happy. And when I do that, I can go back to any of those saved ones. So here's Trevor's favorite. And once again, that's like resetting my workspace, and it'll bring back your Slow Redraw tool. Yeah, so you can hide it when you're not using it and turn it on when you want to. But it's over here that you click to start it or simulate sewing. And notice that it starts to stitch the design, and I can zoom in. I have not with the zoom tool, because if I click on the zoom tool, it's going to stop and wait for me to draw where to zoom, and then I could go ahead and start it again. But I have a mouse that has a scroll wheel. And so with that tool, I can actually put my mouse right over where it's stitching and zoom in. And I can watch this very closely. And I can zoom back out again. There's also controls up at the top, so it's going quite slow right now. I can click here to speed it up. It'll make it so a little faster. There's one more click. I can make it so even faster. If that's not fast enough for you, you can pause it. And now notice that the little blue sort of bar that's over top of the Slow Redraw, that represents the kind of current stitch location. You can tell where the stitch is because it's got a black dot over it. And I can actually grab onto that blue bar and make it so very quickly forwards. I can also drag it backwards and make it so kind of in reverse. And it's the same thing over here. You've got your forward button, but you also have a reverse button. Yeah, you can also pause it and then see right here the exact stitch location in your design that you are. So we're currently looking at stitch 3,302. And in total, the two kind of designs on my workspace have 36,350 stitches in them. And so I said that you could insert a stop. Well, imagine that, right where we are in the design, maybe you wanted to divide that little ribbon in half, and so basically you move with your arrows, and you can even move one stitch at a time. So notice these little arrows right here. This will go forward one stitch at a time with each click that I click on it, or backwards one stitch at a time. And so basically, once you set the slider to wherever you want to add a color stop, you can click right here on the Insert Color Stop tool that's part of the Slow Redraw toolbar. And so I'll go ahead and click on it now. And now it doesn't immediately change the color of the selection, but it inserts a stop. And so if you use your Select tool, notice that if I click to select, that it's been broken into two pieces. And so that is where I inserted the stop right there. And now I can select one piece or the other. So if I click off, it's either this piece here or the other when I click on them to select. And now I can come to the bottom of my workspace and choose a new color for that part of the design. And so that's how you can use the Slow Redraw tool to insert a color in any embroidery design at any stitch point. Yeah, I also wanted to point out the design properties box here. When you have nothing selected, you have two tabs. One is for the design notes, and you could easily come in here and make a note to remind yourself of something, and that will always be saved with your embroidery design. You know, I edited this design to insert a color stop, you know, and tell yourself why. The other thing that I think is really cool about the Properties tab is the Information tab and how it tells you the design name, but it'll tell you things like how many stitches and interesting things like how long will it take to stitch it based upon the speed. So, you know, if you can tell it what speed, if you're planning to sew at 1,000 stitches per minute, then this will take 36 minutes to sew. But if you're planning on slowing it down, then it'll take you 60 minutes to sew. And so those are obviously approximations because sometimes the machine stops and we don't tend to it immediately. But that is the Slow Redraw tool, and I hope you enjoyed this week's RNK Software Club's video for the week. Until next week, thanks for watching, and bye for now.